Hello there, beautiful teachers. I hope you're having a fabulous week so far. Welcome to your weekly YouTube live show. This is the show called Vibrant Music Teacher Chat, where we talk about anything and everything to do with private music teaching. So if you are a piano teacher, a violin teacher, a voice teacher, I hope you feel welcome here. We are one of the friendliest communities on the internet. So please do say hi in the chat if you're new to us and let us know you're new so we can give you an extra big warm welcome and let you know what's going on if there's any in-jokes that you're not getting. This is the weekly show on YouTube where we go through the latest music teacher news and dive into a special weekly topic, as well as answering any and all questions that you have and having the community chime in on those as well. Our special topic today is all about online exams. However, if your students are never going to do online exams or exams in general, I hope that these tips will be helpful for you as you prepare them for any performance at all. So, before we get to that topic, let's get into our latest music teacher news. Okay, so personal update first. Last week was our birthday. Many of you were there. It was so much fun. And I wanted to mention it again because we are doing a little giveaway in association with that. So if you get emails from us usually, and maybe you missed some of them, you might have missed it, but I did send an email last week announcing that we're doing a giveaway for the annual membership because we didn't get to give it away on last week's show. No one picked it, and I ran out of time to choose all the 14 prizes or whatever I had, 10? I can't remember. Anyway, we didn't pick that particular one, and I promise you it was there. I wasn't secretly hiding it. So I want to give it to someone. So you can win a free year's membership of Vibrant Music Teaching. It doesn't matter whether you're a member or not a member. So if you're a member, you'll just get a year's free credit added to your account. If you're not a member, we'll sign you up. We'll give you a coupon to give you a free year. Either way, fantastic deal. So if you didn't check that email, go back and have a look at it. You just need to share a post on Facebook or Instagram to participate, but you have to follow our rules so that we see your post and can enter you in the drawing, and it's all on the up and up, you know, all that stuff. So definitely check your email for that. If you haven't done it already, make sure to share your post. It's been really fun to see them popping up in my feed as well, and I'm excited to draw the winner. That will be on the 1st, so that's this Friday, isn't it? So the 1st is ending at the end of September, and I'm excited to give it to someone. Now, the birthday was a lot of fun, but that wasn't the only fun thing I got to do last week. I also got to do a masterclass with Samantha Coates, and that was really fun as well. And it was in a Aussie-friendly time zone, or time of day, so kind of the opposite of this one right here, which means that many of you watching live didn't get to go to that because you were asleep. So we did make the replay free and available to everyone. Me and Sam just really want to get this content out there. It was all about helping parents to understand their role in the practice process with 2 different analogies: baking from me, based on my book Practice Pie, and biking from Sam, based on her blog post that she's written about the biking analogy that she uses in her studio, this learning to ride a bike, that kind of thing. So we wanted to make that available for free and as easily shareable as possible. So it is in the membership, but it's also on a free page on the membership site, and it's also here on YouTube. So you can just scroll back through our videos, go through to the Colourful Keys channel, and you'll see it. We posted the full masterclass. It's 1 hour, totally free to you. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you found the session helpful if you've already seen it. And I certainly enjoyed putting it together for you. We also published several other things in the past week. So we had some content to do with transfer students and how to assess gaps in their knowledge. We know that can be a big problem, right? When we don't know what a transfer student doesn't know. So we have a few things about that now on the blog. We have a great roundup post that was just published yesterday about how to teach your own kids. So I don't have kids. This was something where we reached out to several different mums, they all happen to be mums, who taught their own kids how to play and how that goes, and a few tips from them to make it work for you, because I know it can be very difficult to be both a teacher and a parent and a practice coach, right? Fulfilling that role as a parent as well as being the teacher. So a lot of them shared tips about putting on different hats and being in those specific roles and how they define those for their family. And then a bit of a funny one, I guess, on YouTube that doesn't fit in with the rest of that is the C major scale easy tutorial. The reason I shared that is because I thought the tips would be useful for teachers, and also so that you can share it with your students if you find it helpful, if it aligns with the way you might teach the scale. So that's why I do publish some things that are more aimed at students. They're so that you can share them with students. That's why I publish them on YouTube. So hopefully you find that helpful. And then we have a member huddle today in just a couple of hours about rote teaching, because we had our challenge a couple of weeks ago. So if you want to talk about rote teaching and you're a VMT member, you can check the calendar and the Zoom link is there. That's in 2 hours from the time this was live. And then I wanted to share two things outside of the VMT sphere. Number one is a post which was on the Top Music blog that I just thought was really interesting in its perspective, especially with the topic we've been talking about with baking and biking with our masterclass, which was from Andrew Eales. So he guest posted on Top Music, and it was in response to a Guardian article. Now, I didn't read the Guardian article. The Guardian, if you're not aware, is a UK paper, but it was in response to that, and basically he was saying the article was kind of giving out to parents about not... I haven't read the article, so I can't comment, but it sounded like it was pretty stark in saying, here, come on, this all falls at your feet, like, make them practice kind of thing. And so Andrew is coming back at it and saying, yeah, okay, parents have a role, but we also have a role, and it would be more helpful if we supported them in knowing how to practice. And so it was really interesting in its perspective because it was a response to this Guardian article, and it just provided a great avenue for talking about our relationship with parents and practice and how we talk about these things. So it goes along really well with the masterclass. And also along with the masterclass is a book I wanted to mention, because Sam brought it up in the masterclass and several people have followed up with me to double check what it was. And it is a really useful one that I've read as well, although I mix it up a lot with another book. So I did that in the masterclass, but I have read this one and I'm considering getting the audio as well. So yeah, that might be a new segment. This is just occurring to me on the fly. So you can let me know whether this sounds like a good idea. But could we do a little book club as one of the segments here on the show? What do you think? Would it be fun to do a book club? I know not everyone would read the book, but maybe we could put it at the end of the show or the beginning. Let me know what you think of that idea. We could like set a chapter or a couple of chapters a week and then have a discussion based on those. It might be fun. I do a kind of book club thing with the teachers that work here. Like we're going through Foundations of Piano Teaching, our course first. But then we'll do the book club after that. So it's interesting to base your discussion on that, and it tends to branch off in different directions. Carrie says yes. Let me know what the rest of you think. Even if it's no, even if you're like, that sounds like terrible on YouTube. No, thank you. Put it in a Facebook group or just go away. I hate book clubs. I'm open to thoughts. That just occurred to me on the spot. But the book I wanted to mention is by Peter C. Brown. Peter C. Brown, and it's called Make It Stick. I'm going to copy paste that into the chat for you guys. And I wanted to mention it because Sam brought it up and I'd read it quite a while ago now, and I think I need to read it again, and I'm considering getting the audiobook with my Audible credit so that I can get it in a different... I sometimes do that with my favorite books, like I'll have read it ages ago and then I get the audiobook later, or vice versa. And I find it's almost the same experience to me, honestly. I take them both in about the same. I often don't remember which way. Is anyone else like that? You don't remember whether you read it on audio or but with your eyes? With your ears or with your eyes? I don't remember. Like, I can imagine a voice reading it and I'm like looking through Audible And then I realized, no, I didn't. I read it. That's why it's not in my Audible. It's not Amazon's fault. Anyway, so yeah, I'm thinking about that. Sandra's in. Angie's in. Let me know if you're against this idea, because it very much matters to me that this is a community show and that I don't make all the calls on it. But we used to have a segment. We've had a segment, I guess, in most of this show's life with web reviews, and that kind of faded away recently because we reviewed all the websites we need to for the time being, and we weren't getting a lot of applications, so it seemed like the interest in that was waning. It might be a fun way to go. Should we put it at the end of the show or in the middle? I don't know. I think Make It Stick would be the first one, though, since it's inspired by that. Okay. Yeah, Lee's in too. Let's do it. Let's start it from next week, eh? Okay. Yeah. I'm going to open the book at the end of this show, and we'll decide how much we're going to read. Okay? Let's do it. Now, in the meantime, let's talk about our main topic of today, which is all about online exams. So, the pandemic has brought about this idea of online exams into the foreground, much more so. This was definitely a thing before. You could take online music exams, and there were websites, exam boards that specialized in this, as well as some exam boards which did this as an option. But in the pandemic, it became the norm. So those of us who normally have our students do exams, suddenly everything was switched online. And I had several students who were actually already put in for an exam when the pandemic happened. So in that March, I would have put them in February. And now suddenly they have to do it online. Now, they weren't forced into it, to be fair to the Royal Irish Academy of Music, which is the exam board that I use. They weren't forced into it. They were allowed to defer instead, but I kind of encouraged them to go for it just to get it done, because otherwise they're hanging on to these stale pieces. And so we had to figure out how this whole online exam thing works, as well as just online performances generally and video recording specifically. So the way online exams work for most exam boards is that you submit a video recording. I think there are some who actually do it live on Zoom or something like that, but it seems to be very rare. Almost every exam board I've come across has gone the video recording option, which makes it a very different thing to a live exam. If you're going into an exam room, you go in, you give it your best shot on the day, in the moment, with one examiner sitting there in the room, or sometimes a few, and then you leave. And that has its pros and cons, as does the recorded option. But I think you can see how completely wildly different experiences they are for students. So, what is easier about video exams versus live exams? What's easier? Straight away, you guys can probably guess this one, is that you can record it a whole bunch of times. Now, what is usually not easier is you can't edit it. So it's not like a video recording that you would do to publish on your YouTube channel or something like that. You could edit that, you could splice it, you could have multiple camera angles and go back and forth, and it's, a sort of a fabrication. It's not necessarily as it would have been live, because you can go between different cuts of it. But a recorded video exam, normally, all the ones I've seen, have to be from one angle, and mostly they have to be in one take, although that has recently changed with the Royal Irish Academy, so who knows about the trends there. We now are able to do it scales, piece 1, piece 2, piece 3 as separate videos, but the initial round that I did with my students, you had to do one take, and they may go back to that again. They've kind of gone back and forth. So you can see how that is easier in some ways, because you can record it multiple times. That's really interesting, Sandra, that RCM does it online on Zoom, not a recording, and sight reading is sent 24 hours ahead. So it's still not really sight reading, is it? But it's very much more similar to a live exam, whereas the type of exam that I've been experiencing with my students is very different because you're recording it. So you can do it lots of times, But that is also what's harder. That's what my students have been finding more and more. Some of them do prefer it, but actually the majority don't. And it's because you can always record it one more time. Have any of you found this with online recitals or like recorded recitals or recorded exams? Have your students been finding this? You can always do it one more time. So that means if you have any perfectionist tendencies at all, you're just going to keep recording it over and over and you're going to kill yourself doing it. Very, very tough. So, like I say, more of my students prefer live exams when they're allowed to go back in person. Most of them will actually opt for that rather than sticking with the recorded exams, even when it is an option. Now, there are definitely some ways that we can make the recording process easier. So let me give you my tips, and these are absolutely applicable to recorded recitals or concerts or any kind of recorded videos as well. So first of all, let's talk about the technology. What do you tell your students in regards to how to record themselves? Personally, I prefer to tell them to use their phone. I find that in most cases, students have a much better phone. Even like the 20-year-old, they have a much better phone than computer in general. And especially the camera and audio quality on their phone is usually better. They normally have an up-to-date phone. Even the 14, 13-year-olds often have a very up-to-date phone. Like I ask them what they have and they're like, oh yeah, iPhone 13, like the one that just came out. I'm like, really? Okay. Anyway, so if they have a really great phone, that is always going to be a better quality option for someone that doesn't have an external camera or an external microphone to plug into their laptop. So I like to ask them to use their phone and I find a way to prop it up. One simple tip is just to put books either side of it so it's propped up like that. Another way is to put it in something, like if they have some kind of a vessel, right? So a dish that happens to go up to about there, or they can get a selfie stick or something like that. So I have them just prop it up in some way and figure out the best angle, and then if possible with another phone, take a photo of where it was so that they can remember for next time, or put some tape on the floor, find some way to set it up. Keep in mind that I'm mostly dealing with students who are going to record this at home. Although if you have students coming in person and yet they're still doing an online exam, that's often a combination, then you might be recording it at the studio as well. We'll talk about that in a second. But if they're recording it at home, the phone is the best option. Just find a way to prop it up so that nobody's holding it. A parent isn't holding it for hours and hours, as has been the case, which is really tough on the parent, especially when you get to the child who wants to record it again and again and again, right? It's really tough to hold a phone up and keep it still for that long. That's going to make the parent pretty grumpy. So they can prop it up and record it that way and then take a photo of their setup. Now, let's talk about nerves. Because as I said, it can be really tough to record these videos. It sounds like most students' initial reaction is, oh my gosh, it's so much easier. I can do it again and again. I can get it really perfect. But that's the problem. They can get it perfect, so they want to get it perfect. And it's really hard to get it perfect. As much as you think that your nerves and the in-the-momentness are what affects you during an exam, it's actually just performing anything, and it's being that self-aware of how your performance is coming across, right? So I like to give them a few tips on this, and a lot of it is just practice, so do keep that in mind. But my big things are to establish some kind of pre-performance ritual, first of all. So I like Breath of 5 for this. That's a little technique warm-up or like a little pre-performance thing, pre-lesson, pre-practice, pre-everything at the moment in my studio. And members can find that inside our training library. But it's a video that they follow along. I'm sitting at the piano and doing it with them. So they breathe in for 3, out for 3, in for 4, out for 4, and then in for 5, out for 5, which is why it's called Breath of 5. And they're doing different actions, very simple, just planting their feet, raising their hands up to the keys and checking which allows them to check the bench distance, right? And then focusing on sitting up tall. Very simple. But those steps, having some kind of ritual like that or a routine for getting yourself set up is really valuable. And I like to incorporate the breath because if you force your breathing to slow down, you're less likely to feel that anxiety building and building and building. Another tip to go along with that is to tell yourself that you're excited. Now, you're going to have to sell this to students. And honestly, I would just tell them this is going to sound really silly, but just go with me, okay? Roll with me. When you start to feel nervous, I want you to tell yourself, I'm excited. And say it in an excited voice. Sounds ridiculous. And some students won't go along with you with this. They might roll their eyes, but I find normally if I just acknowledge that it feels silly and do it myself and demonstrate it, they will go with me, especially if we have a good relationship. So the reason we do that is to train our bodies, train our minds that these nerves that I'm feeling are actually excitement, because a lot of the same physical responses are there. When we feel nervous, it is very similar to feeling excited. And I'm not talking about extreme performance anxiety or anything like that, but just those nerves, right? The butterflies in your stomach, all of that, it does feel like excitement. So if you can convince yourself that that's what you're feeling, you can kind of reattribute those physical sensations to the emotion of excitement and feel a bit better about it. So the pre-performance ritual, the feeling of excitement, and then once you start recording, you commit to keeping going. And you commit to a certain number of recordings. This is the big one for me, and the one I've had to convince a lot of especially older teens and young adults to do, is to say, don't tell yourself, this time I'm going to get it. Tell yourself, I'm sitting down and I'm going to record this 5 times, 10 times, if it's a shorter piece, whatever. I'm going to do this many takes. And don't even stop the recording in between. Just do that many takes. And every time you start that take, you just keep going. No matter what, no matter how terrible you think it is, you just keep going. And you know that you're going to do it 10 times. So telling yourself, I'm going to do it 10 times and pick the best one from today really helps to stop you from going, I'm going to get it this time. And then you get nervous and you mess it up. This time I'm going to get it. And then you get even more nervous and you mess it up again. And the more and more this happens, the more pressure you're putting on it until it's impossible for you to get it right. Has anyone else experienced this? I know this would affect me so much. So that's a solution I've found. I'd love to hear your solutions to this, but for me, it's about committing to a certain number of repetitions of the performance. I'm going to do this many takes no matter what, even if I think it's perfect. I'm going to do 5. And once I start a take, I don't stop, no matter what. No matter how terrible I think I am, right? So that's my advice for students at home. And a lot of that applies when they're in the studio. And the only difference is that a lot of the tech you can set up and you can talk them through a lot of these things as well. So I really like, if your students are coming to lessons as well, have them record it so that you can give feedback and help them through the process, and they can start. It's the same as practicing in the lesson. You're practicing recording in the lesson so that they get better at that and they feel more confident doing it at home. So you're incorporating the pre-performance rituals, you're getting them to feel excited rather than nervous, and you're committing them to keeping going. Once you start, just keep going. I don't care what happens, and we're going to do 3 in a row. I won't even say anything in between, or, 3 in a row, but I'll just talk you through a deep breath in between, something like that. Lee, that is absolutely true that they're going to get more tired as they try again, but I believe the bigger fatigue tends to be with their nerves and their nervous system. That's at least what I found with my students. So like I said 5, or maybe it's 10 if it's a shorter piece. You do want it to be a manageable number because you definitely are going to get tired. And you also side note or bonus tip, hydration is key. So in between takes, they should have some water. Maybe they should have a little snack bar that they're taking bites of in between. This will all help to also relax them a little bit, because it's not just I'm doing it, and I'm so running on adrenaline, and then I get completely exhausted. And trust me, I mean, this is maybe a benefit I have talking students through this, or especially at the beginning when most of us didn't have experience with this. I do batch recordings of videos, and if you have not done that yourself, maybe try it. Maybe try doing, an hour of recording a video or something, so that you can at least empathize and you can feel what it feels like, because it is tough. I mean, I'll do 3-5 hours of video recording, and I'm not recording that whole time, but that's between takes and moving stuff around. It does take that long to do a batch of, say, 10 videos. And it's so shattering. It is one of the most tired states that I ever get into, is video recording days. Honestly, I get to the end of that and my eyes are just drooping. It is tough. So you don't want to make it a really long video recording session, but I do think it's really important to commit to a few in a row, because otherwise you just put so much pressure on every one, and you end up doing like 15 takes anyway, and they're just getting worse and worse and worse and worse. You're getting so frustrated and cross at it. Whereas if you commit to a certain number in the beginning and just stick to that, it feels a lot more calm. And don't leave it to the last week, as students sometimes want to do. Start recording right away so that you can get used to recording along with anything else. So if you have any questions about recording recital videos, the tech, the nervousness, any extra tips I can give you, do let me know as we go into our Ask Me Anything section. All right, so I did see a random question pop up earlier. If anyone else has any more, please do add them in, whatever topic they're on. Lee asked, what do we look for if we miss the video about transfer students? You're just going to go to the channel, Lee. So click through to the Colourful Keys channel. You can do it after this video, and I will double check the title for you. Where am I going? So you click through to the channel, click to videos, and then it is, that's where you'll find all of our videos. The transfer student one, though, I believe is a blog post. Yeah, that's a podcast / blog post, so it's not on the YouTube channel. So for those looking for videos, that's where you look, but ignore me if that's not what you're looking for. If you're looking for that specific transfer student one, it's going to be on the blog or the membership site as well. Yes, okay, nice. I don't see any other questions here, just double checking in case any of you missed writing the word question. But what we're going to do is I'm going to open, I have it in Kindle, that book, and we're going to choose how much we should do for the next week. Okay? So it's called Make It Stick. It's by Peter C. Brown. I did type it in earlier in the chat. Make It Stick by Peter C. Brown. I'm just going to go to the TOC here. And we'll pick what we're going to read. This is a fun idea, isn't it? I think so. Okay. So, yeah, the chapters aren't super long. Let's do the first 2 chapters. That's less than 50 pages. Does that sound doable, everyone? I'm a slow reader, so I do empathize. So tell me if that's too much. I get through more on audio, so I'm quite confident I can do that. But yeah, the first 2 chapters. So it's learning is misunderstood, and then to learn, retrieve. Could we do 3 chapters? I don't know. Let me know what you think. So it's 22 pages for the first chapter, another 22 for the second chapter, third chapter is the same size. So do we want to do 70 pages or 50 pages? Odd. Let me know what you think. And we will go with that. Should be fun. Oh, Angie, you just got it from the library. Nice. Yeah. I'd like to do this. Well, we'll try it with the first book, but I'd really like to do it with not like piano teaching books, but more like general learning books like this. I think they tend to be better topics for conversation, not more learning for us, but better for discussion because, yeah. Leave votes for 2 chapters, 50. Okay, 50 it is. First 2 chapters only. That's all we're expecting. And of course, you can come and discuss it, even if you didn't read them, because we'll be talking about the ideas. Okay, everyone's voting for 2 chapters. I like it. Let's go with the slower pace. Awesome! Thank you all so much for joining me. It's been a blast as always, and I'm excited about our new book club idea. And we will do it. Let's do it before the Ask Me Anything segment. So that's probably what we'll do. We'll do the main topic next week, then we'll do our book club, and then we'll do a few final questions. Yay! Okay, nice. Thank you all so much again for joining me. It's been a blast as always, and I will catch you all next week. Bye.